Hello, my name is Dennis Wiggins. I am the Chief Portfolio Officer for ANALYTICS PLUS PPM2. For those of you who don't know, who are in the Team Exec Network, PPM2 stands for Product and Project Portfolio Management. One of the things that we're doing with our 2021 launch of the ANALYTICS PLUS Chief Portfolio Officer Model Tool, A+ CPO, is we're offering PMP Certification Training Bridge to Analytics to demonstrate what the future is going to look like in probably all disciplines, because analytics is going to be a key factor in manipulating data and analyzing data. And so, welcome to the presentation. Hope you enjoy it. We're going to be discussing just the base model, which is the ANALYTICS Plus Project Manager model. If I could just take a moment and briefly explain to you the layout here. We are in Project 3, and this is a demonstration pertinent to the ANALYTICS Plus Project Manager model, which is A+ PM. If you look over here to the left-hand side, this is the functionality associated with the tool that gives you various options to maneuver within the ANALYTICS Plus model. But we're not going to go over that today. What we're going over is the functionality that is bridged to the project management profession. We are in briefing books. Briefing books are a substitution for PowerPoint. So no more Excel and PowerPoint going forward. We can take the data and put it various places, Adobe Acrobat, PowerPoint, Excel, and various other options. But our primary focus for today's presentation is to acclimate you with the functionality of analytics pertinent to project management. And we're going to go down to the next slide. The project management discipline is a very dynamic discipline. So therefore, what we've done in the ANALYTICS Plus Project Manager model is we've created a suite of KPIs associated with earned value management, capacity planning, etc. But for purposes of the PMP candidates training, we're just going to be dealing with earned value management and predictive analytics associated with earned value management. We're not going to address the other functionality that is incorporated within the tool because you are here to learn about project management, so therefore we're staying at the base level. So let's talk about the scoring and the color coding associated with it. Basically, the ANALYTICS Plus Project Manager model gives you the capability of managing by score if you're not totally versed in the earned value management discipline. The KPI that you're looking at here is the WBS, actual percent complete, which is synonymous if you're looking at tasks. This would be the percentage of the tasks that are complete within your work breakdown structure. There's another way to view that also, but you have to come to training so that we can explain that to you. So let's go here. Okay, the scoring starts at 0. 0 to 2.5 is red, 2.5 to 5 is yellow, 5 to 7.5 is green, and 7.5 to 10 is blue. Now you're probably saying everything that I've seen thus far is red, yellow, or green. Well, this is one of the features within the ANALYTICS Plus Project Manager model, because the whole objective is to reduce costs associated with that project. So you should be striving to achieve a value of 7.5 to 10, which means that you have to manage your team properly. Now, I understand that project plan is a project plan, and there are deviations from the project plan and things overrun. But the whole premise is that when you have a suite of KPIs, when you manage that suite of KPIs properly, well, you want to stay in the reserve, and the reserve is 7.5 to 10. And then we're saying here, weekly monitoring of the red and yellow exception reports provides project managers with timely corrective measures, potentially driving KPI reserve with a score between 7.5 and 10. So basically the whole premise here is to manage your team properly. Okay, so let's talk about threshold. Before we move down to the next slide, let's analyze what we're looking at here. The worst case scenario is you're completing the project at 86.5%, right? And the best case scenario is you're moving the project faster. So these are the worst case and the best case scenarios, right? So who establishes the thresholds? Well, PMO governance would establish the thresholds for the portfolio. The portfolio manager would be responsible for establishing the threshold for projects, right? And the threshold basis would, in that case, would be PM experience level, right? Whether that person has just been onboarded, learning your systems, etc., right? PM bonus structure, right? Project complexity, or prototype driving towards an estimate to complete, right? So let's go to the next slide here. So now on this slide, you see the worst case scenario and you see the best case scenario, right? So as you see, right, what we're trying to do is accelerate how quickly we complete the project. So the goal is at this point in time, which is December 29th, right? And you can slide this scale to see previous performance. And let me just do that to give you an illustration here, right? So the week of December 9th through December 15th, the score was 91% of the work breakdown structure was complete, and it was in yellow status. It wasn't performing where it should have been, which it should have been at 93.3, right? So when you establish the time frame, so let me let you view the time frame box here, is you can go and you can establish things on a monthly, quarterly, or yearly basis, or you can switch the timelines here and show the results. But we're going to go back to December 29th, because that's the period for year end, right? So the thresholds for color coding of red is 86.5 to 92.68. The thresholds for coloring it yellow would be 92.68 to 98.86. The thresholds for establishing green would be 98.86 at this point in time. Remember, you're dealing with a specific time frame, right? Because it's scaled against planned value. Planned value is no more than an increment in time to the budget, right? So we're looking at 98.86 to 105. So now you're managing your team properly. And the company, that's what you're being paid to do, is manage that team, manage that project in green status, right? But the high potential candidates are going to be striving towards that blue, which is going to be 105% to 111%, showing that even though we plan to hypothetically spend $1 million, I did the project at $875,000, and you're going to be getting, well, in my world, when I led the portfolio for a Bell South contracted through Accenture, the candidates that could manage the projects effectively under budget were the ones that received higher bonuses, awards from the organization, etc. To complete this section on thresholds, we're going to take a moment and actually show you a tool that's equipped and incorporated into the Analytics Plus Project Manager model, and that is drill down functionality. So if you want to see the detail on the scorecard record, which actually displays this information, let's click on this link here. And it's going to drill us down to the actual detail associated with that specific metric. And the metric that we're speaking in reference to is the work breakdown structure actual percent complete. For those of you who are acclimated, it's the work percent complete against the actual budgeted dollars, right? So what you're looking at is the period of trending, right? So the work breakdown structure naturally is going to go up in a higher percentage, right? But it has to be in some type of relationship to the plan. So the plan, or the goal of where they should be at this point in time, December 29th, they should be at 98.86, right? So right now they're at 95 the week of December 22nd. But all of a sudden they took this major dip right? From 95% complete to 92.6% complete, right? So what could attribute towards that? Well, the first thing that pops into my mind was additional tasks were added into the project plan, causing the percent complete associated with the task to be reduced. But since you're in training, I don't want to go too far into that because you're on a learning curve here, right? So what you have is you have links where you can actually go down here, and the related items associated with this training is the balance scorecard threshold and the work breakdown structure, right? So let's look at the work breakdown structure, right? So this is some of the information that you'll be learning within the training for those that participate. Also, I want to mention that PMP candidates can also participate. PMP certified individuals can also participate in the training at the designated time frame when we're doing the Analytics Plus model. So refer to the calendar for the training period, which is attached in the article or issue 2, and that would be the time that you would log in to participate. So let's click on this, and you're going to see it opens a new tab. And we're not going to sit here and wait for that to completely load because I'm working off of a hotspot and giving this demonstration up. So it completed relatively quickly, right? So this is information that facilitates your learning curve. You can actually launch information pertinent to it, read about it. Project management is based on critical thinking, right? So you got to put your thinking hat on and think big picture of how all of these activities relate to one another, okay? So let's go back. And we're back to where we were. Again, this is one of the features and functionality associated with briefings, right? So again, this substitutes PowerPoint. So when we go down to the next slide, project is in flight, right? We have already discovered that it's 92.6% complete for the work breakdown structure, right? So the project is nearing its end. But the cash that was supposed to be expended to date is 98.86%, but we've expended 105%. Now, the scaling is against plan value, right? But if you're at 98.86, that only leaves you approximately 1.14% cash left. Well, you don't know, but I know the project was supposed to be completed the latter part of February, which means there's going to be an overrun. So the key is going to be whether or not the overrun is going to be within the acceptable parameters of the thresholds, right? So again, the three metrics that we're looking at here is plan value, percent complete, which is the time interval to the budget, right? Work breakdown, actual percent complete, how well you're doing against what you plan to do, and how quickly you're burning the cash. So they're burning the cash faster than they're completing the work. So let's go down to the next slide. And we're going to focus again on those three metrics, right? The plan value, percent complete, the work breakdown structure, percent complete, the cash burn rate, and this is a comparison to the total budget dollars, right? So when we look at the goal, right? So if we slide over these individual metrics, first this is the legend over here. So the gold reports the information for plan value. The purple records the information for WBS, etc., right? So we all know how to look at charts, right? But this is a neat feature. As you scroll over these individual metrics here, it actually tells you the color associated with it. So what we've done is we've actually charted just these two measurements, the burn rate percentage versus the goal for the cash burn rate versus the goal for the actual burn rate, right? So the goal for the cash burn rate, the goal was supposed to be at 98.86%, and it was supposed to be at the midpoint or the green level, right? But we're actually overrunning, so we're coming in at 105%. So when we scale down here, we actually see that it automatically color codes those metrics when you scroll over it to tell you the disposition. So you as a project manager, your primary focus on any metric that's being reported is yellow and red, right? That's where you should be expending your time, because it's telling you that that metric in comparison to the plan is not performing as you projected it, right? And again, you have the functionality and feature of scrolling back and forth, right? So we look over here now, so it's green, green, red, red, right? So you have the capability of doing that, right? So I'm not going to spend a lot of time. We've talked enough on that metric. And again, the dynamic background chart is just applicable to these two KPI metrics. So let's go back to December 29. And this has the drill down functionality as well, right? So if we were to look at burn rate, actual, right? So we're at 105%. Prior period, it's a change from December 16th to December 22nd of 2.34%, right? We got the dip. I think it's something they added task in the work breakdown structure. We have related links to it. In this case, we've added three links rather. One associated with burn rate, one associated with plan value, earn value, and actual costs, right? So this is how you would acclimate yourself. So if you were to click on this link here, it would launch the information associated with burn rate and how PMI views burn rate. You have to come to our training so that we can explain our logic to you associated with that. In some cases, we deviate from the concepts in which that are considered to be maybe commonly used, etc. So let's go back to our cash burn rate diagram, our KPI metric here, and let's go back to the briefing book so that we can continue the demonstration. So let's go down to the next slide. Again, this is information associated with the metrics that we've previously talked about, except for it's showing trending. So you have your trending, and this is a line chart. You have your legend over here. It's giving you a larger time frame that you're scaling it against. It's been established to present a 6-week time frame, so that's what you're looking at here. So it's telling you information pertinent to how it's changed each week, right? So we're going to move on because we've discussed these enough. Let's go down to the next slide. Okay. Let's take a moment and enlarge this so that we can see the detail. I'm going to scroll up a little bit here. When you're looking at the speedometers at the higher level, you always want to drill down to the scorecard so that you can scale it based upon the scorecard thresholds, because the speedometers have built-in parameters. And in this case, it's the best case versus the worst case. But when we drill down, we can see all of the detail. And that's where you want to be. You want to be able to see worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is this project, which has been baselined at 1,052,500. The worst case scenario, based upon the threshold established, it will come in at 1,184,063. Thresholds, again, was discussed. PMO governance for the portfolio level, portfolio manager for the project level, right? So that worst case scenario is here. Red flag is 1,118,281. The goal is 1,052,500, which is the baseline. And we have reach out, meaning that you're performing well, you're performing in green status, but there's still room for improvement, because you want to be a high potential candidate, you want to get to the best case scenario, which is $921,000. But it doesn't stop there, because if you exceed that threshold, you're just performing exceptionally well. So let's go back up here. And let's look at the summary of the actual performance versus the planned value. Again, we're going to drill down. And when we drill down, we see some charts here. So let's look at this chart. We have actual versus planned value. So what's happening here is the baseline is at $1,052,500, and the actual performance is at $1,105,144 at this point in time, which is 12/29, has a score of 2.6. And as you can see, at this point in time, the thresholds are lesser than what we discussed for the planned value, because that's the delta between the two. So let's go back. We've identified that the cash burn rate is a problem in comparison to the performance of the project, right? And we've stated that the burn rate is exceeding the pace in which that the work breakdown structure is performing based on budgeted dollars. So let's drill down on that. And we see here that these are the metrics, and these are the performance measurements for that specific time. The work breakdown structure based on budgeted dollars is only at 92.6, which is underperforming to the targeted amount, which was supposed to be at 98.86, right? So it's underperforming, right? And then we have a dip here from the week of December 22nd down to 12/29. We've had a dip in the performance. So with that dip in the performance, we know that there's some type of issue. Something's been added, which has caused the percentage to go down by 2.5%. Okay, so we've identified that. Let's go back. And when we go back, we're going to look at the ETC. We know, and we're going to drill down, we know that we were projecting that based on the remaining budget that's allotted, which is $10,000, which is the estimate to complete. That was the goal, but our actual value is 52.6. So we know that this project is going to be in need of more funds. So if we take a moment here and we just look at the scores of these selected KPI metrics that we're going to focus on for the stakeholders, we see that the actual versus the planned value is at a 2.6 score, which we have here. We know that the score for the cash burn rate percentage is 2.51. And we know that the score for the estimate to complete is 0. So we know that we're in need of funds. We're overrunning at the current time. The actual performance is 52,600. This diagram that's popping up is the description box of the respective speedometer. So it's giving you details. So if I go over here to budget, you can write whatever description you want for the specific KPI performance metric. And it'll be displayed each time you hover over that speedometer. So let's proceed and go down to the next slide. In this slide, what we're looking at is a dynamic project status report. And as you see, we have two comparative time frames, and as you hover over it, it gives you all of the KPI metrics associated with that specific time frame. So what we're looking at here is a budget of $1,052,500. Actual dollars spent to date is $1,080,544. So they've actually overrun their budget. So the project's either going to be put on hold, or the PMO governance is looking for a project that's performing well to see whether or not they can ascertain additional funds. Right? There have been no change requests applied to this project, because as you see, the budget at completion and the baseline / EAC are both the same. The variance at completion shows 0, so they have not done any change requests. The period of December 22nd, it was overrunning by approximately $28,044, and that's the delta between the $1,052,000 and the $1,080,000. Okay, so let's enlarge this a little bit. Okay, so then we scroll down. So now the period that we're reporting for is a period of December 29th, and as you can see that right here. So on the left-hand side, you have the dollars associated with the project budget at completion, right? And then and if we go over here to the right-hand side, the scaling associated with the estimate to complete, right? And what you're looking at is the trending line associated with the estimate to complete. So what this is telling you, basically, as of 12/29, it has a projected finish date sometime in February that you are out of funds. So basically, you're going to be continually trending upwards. So let me go here. Before we go down to the detail, the project was scheduled to start November 2017, finish February of 2019. The overall EMV KPI score, which stands for Earned Value Management KPI score. So when I click on this, what it's going to do is take me to the scorecard for Earned Value Management. Okay, so what we're looking at is the overall score for the summary level for the Earned Value Management for Project 3. Now, this is what I want to show you. When we go back, when we click on this tab here called KPIs, what this is demonstrating to you on an annual basis, which we could actually change, right? But what it's showing to you is all of the Earned Value Management computations that are statistically computed to determine the color code. And as you see, as we scroll down, it displays the color coding for that respective information. A lot of the information, a lot of the KPI metrics for this demonstration are not even being discussed, so I'm not going to go through the detail associated with that. So if I go back, okay, let's take a look, let's enlarge this, and let's take a look at the comments that we have below, okay? So this is a dynamic project status report, meaning that you can maneuver, you can go through the report, you can click on links, drill down, etc., right? So if we look at scope, what we're discussing with scope, and you can modify this however you deem appropriate. This is just a snapshot for stakeholders who may not be as versed in earned value management as you are. You don't want to overwhelm them with information. So you have scope, schedule, and resources, and next steps. Then you have information pertinent to the air log, which is the action items, issues, and risks, right? So one thing, based upon what we've discovered thus far, is the cash burn rate is faster than the WBS actual complete rate, right? So we got 105%, meaning that we've exhausted all of our cash, right? Versus a work breakdown structure that's only 92.6% complete, which means that we have no alternative but to go in front of the steering committee for a change request because this is exceeding our threshold, right? So next steps is for the PM and the core team to do a bottom-up estimate for remaining work and present that information to the steering committee for a new budget and schedule. Okay? So let's go back here. And let's move forward. And that's what we just finished discussing. And we're going to go here. So this is a takeaway for your stakeholders, right? So demonstrating how the cash burn rate has exceeded the work breakdown structure actual complete based on budgeted dollars, showing the metrics associated with it. So that's what we want them to take away for that time period of 12/23 through 12/29 of 2018 as far as the status report is concerned. What happens to all of this information? All of this information within the Analytics Plus PM model then becomes an artifact with no modifications. The time frames are established, the documentation is established, the files are established, the notes are captured. Everything that you put into this repository or this database then becomes the project artifact that you can pull up at any given time in the future to determine what happened associated with that project if there are problems. It becomes a great audit trail. So many features and functionalities that I have not even discussed associated with the model. This is just something to get your feet wet for the future associated with analytics bridge to project management, right? So, in summary, I've told you that if you manage your project in relationship to the KPI metrics that are red and the KPI metrics that are yellow, you can automatically customize an exception report where you can pull those metrics all associated with Project 3 into a report for review and corrective measures at any given point in time. This is the red exception report here. So everything that's red in the project is now in front of you so that you can drive it towards green, possibly towards blue, which high potential candidates will do, right? To keep the project on the right track, right? And this is done on a weekly basis. This is the premise. This is why it's done on a weekly basis, so that you get the corrective measures in place in a timely manner. Okay? So we're going to show you one more slide in the appendix, and that is the yellow exception report. Same premise, right? So yellow is caution, red means you're underperforming. Poor performance if it hits red. And what it's doing is it's going through the KPI metrics for Project 3, pulling everything that's yellow for your review, right? Okay, so that completes the demonstration for the bridge between the Analytics Plus Project Manager model and PMP certification training. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that a lot of you will attend. I think that you will learn a lot in your progression for the next level in your career, and look forward to your participation, and thank you for your time.